poetry on the basis of the context or the background that it used to have. Postmodernists say, please strip the context. You look at the text, whatever the text says, it is something which we can say is sacrosanct. It is final. We do not need to go beyond the text. We have to be within the text. These are the American poets. Basically, not all American poets. Allen Ginsberg from America, he's one of the propounders, rather the biggest propounder of postmodernist poetry. Then Sylvia Plath, she has actually been famous for her death as she hit her head. You know her?
No.
Okay, you're saying her. Okay, that's cool.
I've never heard about her.
Anna Mendelsohn, she belonged to a Jewish family and belonged to England. And Maya Angelou, she was also American. These were the poets who gave their ideas about this stripping of context from the text and believing that the poets are not the sole judge of mankind. And then they said that whatever you give to the mankind has to be a piece of writing which has some aesthetic sense rather than something higher, which has higher purpose. They also believed that whatever you give it to the people, give it to the reader. Do not think it is the final interpretation of what you want to say. Because you know, poems, they have meanings. And when you refer to meaning, and you think that you are the sole judge of your own work and the society, you will try to give it a final shape, as if a judgment. So the postmodernist poetry does not give judgment. It just speaks as it is. And it's up to the reader then, whatever interpretation he or she takes from it. This is how, because now we see, they see that there is no difference, essential difference between life and art. You look at the propaganda, the people in Afghanistan, people in here or people in there, anywhere. Sometimes what we believe is right in history about people, real life, comes out to be wrong in other part of history. And this way we come to see what is fiction, what is real. So the postmodernists believe that life and art are almost similar. They both may be denominated as fiction. And the most important thing is, they believe that since everything has evolved, science evolved, if Newton was there, then there was to come a person who had to give the quantum mechanics, then there was a person to come as Einstein, and nobody is final. If science has to undergo a number of stages by being corrected and revisited, then how can the judges, poets as judges in the past, can be forever the judges of the mankind? So there has to be a way whereby you can judge them separately, in a different style. So life is in a way mixed with art, and it's like kind of a fiction. We never know. This is their understanding. Okay. Now this is how we have basically, they believe we have spoken on the text. But apart from text, they also believe that since there are a number of genres, maybe novel is there, poetry is there, and even in poetry you have sonnets, you have simpler couplets, you mix them and then you give something different. Make it a collage or make it a montage. Whatever you make it, you just find it out and collect things and present it to the world. Do not be strictly following the meter of the poetry as it was used in modernism and even before. So they have just given a complete freedom to the writer to go anywhere. You kind of enjoy and collect and connect different genres, use different language, which can, even now, you know, in the postmodern poetry, you can use any kind of terminology. If you are using a medical kind of thing, you can use a medical term there. There's no bar on it. And this is the last of the points that it speaks of. As we spoke about the language, they also speak about that the poetry has to be kind of playfulness. You just enjoy it. You do not have to give philosophies and ideologies to people and to lead them to certain destination. You just give them some ideas. You just give them some piece of language wherein there are certain pictures or whatever. You just connect them, and that's all. That has to be playfulness rather than philosophy. All that stuff. These are those populist poets of the postmodern. If you want to talk, we will talk on them later on, but just I wanted to give a glimpse on that. Now, having said that, now in the present era, there are certain tensions in postmodern and the present kind of poetry available to the mankind through internet or through any source. The major is textuality and symbolism. Now what we basically, since they say that we have to be within the text, postmodernists say we have to be within the text. Okay, we be within the text. What about symbolism? If the poem, you write something, it will automatically be symbolic in a way or the other way. Because the letters you use, they themselves are symbols. And when you use them to give some other meaning, it becomes a double-edged sword. And if you intentionally do it something more, and you use your mind and make it more, it can multiply. So whether you want it or not, it has to be symbolic. That will be simple symbolism, but again it has to be. And when it comes to symbolism, then you go beyond text. And that's a problem. So they say that we have to be within the text, okay? But we be within the text, and then it has to be symbolic. What we do? We go beyond the text. There's a little bit confusion in that. Now, for instance, this is my poem from the book. What does this poem say? Under the scorching sun, with eyelids beginning to droop, the leafless boughs and the errant earth have been waiting for ages to fall into a deep sleep. Now you can see the text. Text is there. We do not go out of the text. We remain there. But again, how can you not try to deduce some kind of understanding from it? And you may have a number of interpretations on the same. This is how it becomes difficult for postmodern poetry to evaluate itself. For instance, we have another poem from Silence of the Piano Sings. A lonely forlorn hill in the heart of an infinite desert echoes back the cry of ages, but the delay outruns the speed. I don't think there are very heavy words in it, but again, when you read poetry, we have to, imagine things, and then the symbolism, it leads to confusion sometimes, maybe. So the questions are: do ideologies die if postmodernism prevails? They said that it is not the responsibility of poets to be the judge of mankind and give philosophies and ideologies and lead. Okay, well then, what about those? Do ideologies exist then? We have to just remove them from everywhere. Since authority is out of custom literature, if we believe in postmodernist point of view, so how can a poet express himself in a way that he wants to? The individual liberty is at stake. When you are everywhere, you are nowhere. This kind of independence was given by postmodernists. So when I am everywhere, I want to be somewhere. No, you are everywhere. So how can I be here? It's not possible. But it's not possible. How can I do it? Make it possible. It's something that I believe that no age is the age of any movement or any era or whatever. Likewise, postmodernism cannot be the representative of the age, because human mind is very complex. A lot of complex people, ideologies, and you just come with some philosophy and try to reject the previous one and try to give something in humanities. Okay, flow of electrons is called current. Now you change this theory, in future you'll have a lot of problems, because it has to be the way it is. But when you speak about human beings, it is not that simple. It has to be something which should include a number of other things. I think, now we go to T.S. Eliot, earlier we discussed, he belonged to the modernist era. But the way he used to write poetry, critics in future said he was a classicist. Why? Because he followed all the rules that could be followed in terms of structure. Words should be used this way, lines should be used this way, the stressed, unstressed syllables should be used this way. But the ideas that he put in those words were that of the modern age. So you have classicists even in the modern age. So why can't modernists in the postmodern age? And why can't romantics there? Basically, you cannot stop anybody. You cannot stop any mind. But these are the issues with the current postmodern poetry. I give you another example. If you go to central London, this Royal Festival Hall on the right side in the picture, you'll find a lot of different people, especially refugees coming from the world, especially Muslim countries, Palestine and other places. And they normally go for Refugees Week. And almost 3-4 days back, I went there. Maybe you must have visited. There were a number of poems, hanging on a wall or on a stone, and you could read them. That poetry, I read not less than 200 of them. I almost read all of them which were available. And those were totally modern poems. They were speaking of what? We are refugees. We want shelter. We want identity. Identity is the issue of modernism. It's not the issue of postmodernism. We are the ones who want liberty at any cost, because the whole world is wrong. They are becoming judges, giving judgments on things. Modernist element. And when you read them, you will be lost if you have read on the one hand postmodern poetry, and on the other hand those 200 of poems in that stone. At present again, you will find modernism prevailing, existing simultaneously. So we coexist. Though they believe in plurality, but they do not believe in coexistence the way I have presented. Having said that, we come to the second part of the book. Silence of the piano sings. Now, this was about the historical perspective. We come to see what the book gives you. It's a combination of all these. T.S. Eliot said in his book, Tradition and Individual Talent, that an individual, an artist, is connected to the history and tradition. He cannot detach himself. What a beautiful statement. If it is so postmodernists even cannot detach themselves from their history. And we have spoken on these points in a similar way, that these schools, these eras, these movements are denominated or termed by the critics or the later stages in history. But all of these can coexist simultaneously. You cannot say that this is to be the strict rule for this, because it is not the rocket science. So the last para of this slide, where I have tried to conclude my understanding of the book, there are certain elements in the book which are purely postmodern, but there are other elements which are modern in my book, and some of them related to romanticism. There is not classical stuff in it because I have tried not to touch that, but excluding classical elements, you can find anything else. But it has almost coexistence of all these elements, these movements, these eras in it. Now, for instance, this is a poem that I wrote in Venice in 2008. A lady comes, I go to a shop basically, and when I enter, she says, "Talk to me in Italian rather than English. You are in Italy." I said, "Okay, well, that's cool." And then I just composed this poem. The poem says that I watch a lot of classmate, toys and other things, and there is a bird. When I see her, she looks at me and laughs and says, "Sorry, sir. It's a toy. I have given it a life." In the poem, it says in low voice, "Sorry, sir. I look in her sad eyes, kiss her goodbye, eyes moist, smiling." This is how, basically, this refers to pluralism. In a way, that we should be accepting all the elements. Identity is the issue of modernism. I am Italian, I am French, I am English. This is identity. This issue belongs to modernist era. But now, what we are supposed to do? Okay, I am Italian, you are French, shake hands. This is how we look at it. So this poem, in a way, gives a postmodern, popularity related element in it. Now, in the Venetian water, now look at this. This is imagery. You must have, ridden on the gondolas in Venice if you go there. Gondolas are the boats. You sit and la 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 la, and that music goes on and you enjoy it. This is how you just put it this way, and this is an image you call it, imagery you call it, but both are different. And this gives it the element of modernism as well as postmodernism. Modernism because this belongs to the imagists. It is from imagism. But in postmodern, whatever comes to your mind, you just put it. That's where I put it. Now, for instance, this is another short poem. What is sculpted, I do not. What I carve, you may not. But hangs still in the mind some careless, clueless rhyme. We make the same music. Somewhere there's something. But this is combination of both the movements. Too huge. I just read the first of this. This is purely modernist poetry. It's not in any way postmodern. Because it speaks about, being judge of the mankind. I have poured my wine over time and space. Everyone is drunk, everything is drunk. Everyone totters, everything totters. You're just, moving like that. And this is my wine, my philosophy, my ideology that I have thrown onto the world in shape of wine. Everybody has drunk my ideology and is drunk. Now this is purely modern element of poetry. It can't be postmodern. Similarly, this is another idea which can be related to romanticism as well as modernism. But like a serpent slithers through your mind and soul, to bite here and there, everywhere. You are dying to be born. And this is purely modernist poetry poem. Sing to me no more sirens. You know the sirens in Greek history, mythology? I'm basically saying them, do not try to attract me. I can't be. attracted to you. And this way, I will have my own path and I'll be following that. This is a message. And this is again the issue of certainty. Postmodern poetry believes in skepticism. Modernists believed in certainty. Whatever we say, this has to be. This way they gave the final meaning to things. There is final meaning to this poem. Postmodernists would say, do not give final meanings, give interpretations. Let it up to the reader. So this is how this goes. Another poem, long. This is a romantic one. I won't, skip it. I saw the silvery voice. You can't see the silvery voice, and you can't see the voice, but again, as a romantic poet. I saw the silvery voice of birds and insects, heard the bright colors. I heard the colors. See? I have a manufacturing fault. If you do not look at it from the poetic angle. Heard the bright colors of pristine, untouched flowers. I am referring to nostalgia, basically. But then, I have these dots, the third, like these two that I have taken a number of, stanzas out of this. It's quite huge. So, coming to the conclusion, first I'm telling about the nostalgia that I enjoyed as a teenager maybe, and then I come to speak directly to time that has changed and created this metamorphosis, and that is what is discussed in it. And this is purely romantic. Romanticism never spoke about romance, Romance is altogether different thing. This goes on. And then, perhaps this is the last point. Empty like a trumpet world. Again, this speaks about wet the time sought for vain songs. He who holds the trumpet's mouth leads the chorus, leads the chord. O love, bar grave, firm hold of trumpet's mouth and fill the space with dulcet voice tuneful songs. Let the time see world afresh. This is a modernist and romantic touch. This is about the preface. This is the last point. Actually, the last portion of the talk. This is the preface which I believe, as far as I have studied English literature and others, this may be the only preface written in this style. Again, certainty, clever, modernist element, but again, why it is different? Because I have written this preface in a semi-fictional style. I myself am a character in the preface. Instead of directly writing about why you write a preface, you write about what's in the book and what is the background about those poems, for instance. I have taken myself as a character. I am sitting at the Thames River, and from there I am meeting a number of great scholars, poets and personalities who have been discussed or somewhere referred to in my poems. Albert Camus comes, I talk to him, I feel he's quite sad, gloomy. I take him to Paris. He belonged to Algeria, basically he belonged to Paris. Then he was born in Algeria, he came there. I take him to Paris. Again I see he's quite gloomy, quite sad. Then I leave him, then I meet Baudelaire, I come back to Thames, then I go to Stratford upon Avon, then I move back, and in a way, I keep on moving as a fiction character moves. But this way I have tried to give indirect flavor to the preface structures. This never was in history. If this can be challenged, this can be completely rejected, this can be completely supported, I don't know. This is try. This is the piece of text from the preface. I have taken only three texts, three sections, three personalities, about three poems, in order to just show you. This is the one where I meet Albert Camus, and then we move to Paris and all. This paragraph as within this paragraph. What I given that is about the whole our meeting, about whole meeting and what happens in that. But within this whole structure, within these two paragraphs, basically this is one paragraph, I give almost everything which I have conveyed in my poem. One poem on Albert Camus, He's Albert Camus, and this is his Paris. It was the theatre where he watched his first drama, Stranger novel. This is the poem on Albert Camus. When you read this poem, and when you read that text of the preface, you will find a good understanding of it. I hope so. Likewise, this is an excerpt from the preface again, and this is my meeting with Jane Austen. I go to Bath, where she was born and she lived, and we have a company. And what happens, and in that company I try to make it clear what philosophy understanding of me is about Jane Austen. Then it comes, that is Bath, and she's supposedly Jane Austen, not sure, from the womb of weaving Bath. This speaks about everything that is in the preface. If you want to read it, you can, Likewise, this is the final one. I read this one. This is final slide, as I hope. This is about Socrates. And the poem you see at the end, only 3 words poem. Socrates killed hemlock. At a fair distance from the strand I discern a graveyard. My feet start moving to its direction, only to reach there within a short while. The graveyard gives a desolate forlorn look, with its soil crinkled like a dry page in an untouched book. Most of the graves I see are decrepit, with stones and bricks crumbling away. I see trees with swift trunks, long curved boughs without a single leaf hanging. My eyes lead me to the grave Socrates is buried in. I tread the path to the grave. Having reached there, I move round it to eventually find its tombstone. The tombstone read, Hexacet hemlock, here lies hemlock. This is how I have been through it, so thank you very much for your patient hearing. And this is all about it, and this is the picture about when Socrates is taking hemlock from his student who is feeling shy and sad and blue. Anyway, this is all the book. Yeah. So, thanks a lot for your passionate hearing. I hope if there are questions or something, we can talk on that.
What inspired you for the title of the book?
Actually, the title of the book is about a poem in the book. Is Silence, touch not piano, keys madame, silence of the piano sings. Actually, I was sitting somewhere, exactly, I don't remember the exact place of that. I was watching a piano, and I was enjoying it, because I can a little bit play on piano myself. So I felt a number of tunes were dancing on it. I was enjoying it as I don't know how, as a poet or somebody, or maybe a madman or so. A lady came and she wanted to say, okay, keep aside, I want to play it. So I asked her, please do not touch it. If you touch it, all the tunes will, spread and will be lost. Let me enjoy it for a while. I am hearing the tunes here. So then I wrote a poem, touch not piano, keys madame, silence of the piano sings. And from there I just gave it, silence of the piano sings. That's how it goes on.
Right.
Pardon, yes, sure.
I mean, I'm not being greedy in a tradition sense.